Hello YouTube. We are getting the ultimate sword master, at least in his head, Gilgamesh, and Rosa, FF or Simps Rejoice. Shout out to Multiracial Lion. But in this video, before you pull on Gilgamesh BT Plus and Rosa LD, I'll give you some things to think about before you potentially use your limited resources. If you're not familiar with my channel though, I do play both JP and Global, and I use some of that knowledge and experience to help form my opinions and potentially inform you all. I want to hear your plans for these banners and your thoughts, so go down to the comment section, let me know what you're thinking. While you're there, like the video, subscribe to my channel, consider becoming a member for $1, and check out my playlist, the weekly stream of the Ranting Hour fun stuff. We talk about a bunch of assorted topics. Let's get started, shall we? We're going to talk about Rosa first. She's getting a C90 and a slight rework. If you're not familiar with her kit though, she is a support character. She provides a lot of party battery. She gives HP damage refund after attacks. So if you do enough damage, she'll refund a percentage of that afterwards. And she provides re-raise. So if you die, provided you have the re-raise buff on your party from her skill 2, they'll just get back up. And I believe they go back to quest start. So you could, it doesn't work through orbs, but it is a thing you can do if you go down. And dying isn't a score penalty anymore. So it is a viable strategy. Keep it moving though. Her rework, her skill 1 does 2 HP attacks. Her LD does 3 HP attacks, so better damage on her end. And her LD buff was improved. She now gives the party a total of 50% brave damage up from her LD buff and 30% HP damage up. These are decent numbers. As for her C90, her EX does more damage, 4 HP attacks to be specific, and she gets more party overflow. Pretty straightforward. So now, short analysis. I'm going to be doing an analysis on even the C90 characters, by the way, because I think it's deserving to give them a fair shake, because I think some are worth more than others in terms of how they return. But Rosa, she is a flexible support. She gives a budget brave refund. So just explaining it further, Bart's BT Plus and Garnet do this after you do an attack. You refund it afterwards. But Rosa can do this, but she is an LD only unit. She gives HP cap on her high armor plus, I believe 15%, so that's pretty decent. You notice that. She does work at low investment, so if you need a support, she doesn't need to be blue or ultimate weaponed up in order to do her thing. And you can re-raise versus non-lethal orbs if you die to them, so that's a viable strategy. Unfortunately, her weaknesses, she has low personal damage still. Her skill 1 is 2 HP. You're not bringing Rosa for her damage, but her damage is not great. She does have diminishing returns on her buffs, as we're seeing with ultimate weapons and C90 stats. Brave and even HP damage up, provided you have calls and stuff. There's a certain point where some of that stuff isn't necessary. And Ico did creep re-raise. It's not really a Rosa weakness, but if you already have Ico, that definitely diminishes what Rosa's re-raise can potentially do. Additionally, she has a bow ultimate weapon, so even if you wanted to spike Rosa's damage, it's still not going to be the greatest. Or not, excuse me, not the greatest, but bow isn't a very flexible ultimate weapon, so consider that. As for teams, she's flexible. She is pretty much the OG like Aurabot support. Turn hogs love Aurabots, so like your Tidus's, your Maki. Oh, I guess they're not really turn hogs. People who take a lot of turns, they will appreciate Rosa not sticking any buffs on them provided, unless it's re-raise. But yeah, it is what it is. As for future fights, 6 warrior quests, she can hit the HP regen on the first one. She can be a slot in, you just swap her in to throw up the re-raise, or you can use that as a call. Honestly, you don't need a Rosa invested to do that, but you could throw her in. Actually, yeah, this point doesn't make sense because you don't need investment to do the re-raise, but you can re-raise through anything non-lethal if you take enough damage, so that's something to consider. Alright, now for the main focus, Gilgamesh's BT. He is the headliner of this unit, so let's, excuse me, the headliner of this banner, so let's talk about him, shall we? He is a damage dealer. He has gravity on his skill 1, I think is one of his brave attacks, I don't know. He's got delay on his EX, and question marks because he does a lot of random things. We'll go into that slightly, but his LD really broadens him out. But he does a lot of everything, which is pretty themed well for his character. His rework, he's got better gravity on his skill 1, and his skill 2 does 4 HP attacks now. That's normal damage buff. His EX, he had an EX buff that I didn't realize he had, but he starts with that now. Not really too impactful, but his EX does 3 HP attacks, and it's an AoE delay. So before it only delayed the person you were targeting, but now it delays everybody. That's handy. His LD, the attack itself, is a split 4 HP attacks, and it grants a new buff. This is where things get a little wacky. The buff is not given a quest art, mind you, so you gotta open with it. But you get RNG for his HP attack command, and he copies Cloud, Onion Knight, Paladin Cecil, and Ramsa's LD attacks. So Cloud as a 2-turn delay, Onion Knight is a party turn swap, Paladin Cecil gives heals and overheals, in fact, actually. And Ramza is a 1-turn delay on everybody, on all the enemies, and it launches. Please note though that the Onion Knight version of his HP attack will not give the party free skills, unfortunately. It's a little bit sad, but it is what it is there. But the thing the HP attacks all have in common is that it's given at the start of every Gilgamesh turn, and I believe you can refresh this or re-roll it if you use like a C65 or a call ability, so consider that. It's a double 4-hit Brave plus HP with 20% splash. It's an instant turn and it extends his buff, so he's never losing any uptime on it. So whenever he does on the previous slide, like I mentioned, he'll do all of that, he'll get an instant turn, and then he'll get to go again afterwards, and he'll go back to a normal HP attack. So ideally, this is just 2 HP attacks added onto all of his skills, which is a functional damage increase provided you're ignoring orbs or anything else going off in the background. So yeah, like I mentioned before, you have the chance to either get Party Battery plus Launch, and this is the Ramza one. 2-turn delay, that's the Cloud one. You're moving party turns forward, it's the Warp. It's the Onion Knight one, and the Party Overheal, it's the Paladin Cecil one. You can tell because it'll be in English and you can read it for real. And the BT effect. This is where things get a little silly. He has a 12-turn BT effect, and it goes up to 4 stacks, and it goes up after each of Gilgamesh's turns. First stack, provided he's green, by the way. He'll get 100% break damage up for the party. Then he gets 20% HP damage up for the party. I cut out, he gets party overflow, but nobody cares about that. At another stack, but the final stack, 4 stacks, he'll get 30% party HP cap. That is competitive. That is what Garnet has. So Garnet edges him out because she has the blue party armor, but that's a pretty significant HP cap up. That is a 4 or 5 ultimate weapon for everybody. You notice that for sure. So now getting into Gilgamesh's strengths. Wow, I just totally had a lisp there. He's got crazy utility. All that RNG he's got in the background, the BT effect raising the HP cap and buffing everybody. He's all over the place, but he can do a lot of things well. The loaded BT effect, 100% brave damage is no joke, even though there's diminishing returns on it, but 30% HP cap is a lot. And while I don't think it's fair to focus on his RNG at all, because all those buttons are good. The worst case is you're gonna get overhealed, but you could get delay. 2 of them would delay. I mean, 3 of them are turn manipulation. You're bringing your party's turns forward, or you're pushing the enemies back in some fashion. And he's got great story ultimate weapon, so he's got a flexible spot. Provided you want to invest in him, you could throw that ultimate weapon around everywhere else. As for weaknesses, though, his damage is okay. There's an asterisk on his damage because, like I mentioned earlier, you're probably only going to be pressing his skill 2 because that's his highest damage skill, and it's in its EX, and he has the functional 2 extra HP attacks added onto it. However, if you use that HP attack, he's going to cut into his BT duration. So if you can kill the bosses fast enough, then he's got a functional 6 HP attacks on every skill, provided 5 to 6 HP attacks he's averaging. But unless you don't want to cut into that BT duration, then that's a damage loss on him. So you got to kind of make that decision, which is a bit annoying. And while the RNG buttons are good, it's not super impactful. Like, you could probably live without a 2-turn delay or a launch or a party turn manipulation. You can't rely on it ultimately. And while, again, the buttons are good, but you can't rely on it. There's diminishing returns on everything on his BT effect except the HP cap, because everyone in their mom and C90 is getting HP damage up, and everyone's getting brave damage up. So you're less likely to notice those, but again, you will notice the HP cap. And unfortunately, this HP cap 30% looked really good in JP when it first released, because we're like, oh crap, 30. Who else had 30 at the time? That was Yuna, and Machina. That was it. Unfortunately, in GL, we just got Garnet, who gives 30%, 40% provided you blued her. We know that Ramza and Zack are on the corner. Zack has 20% and deals a buttload more damage than than Gilgamesh does. Ramza gives 50, Kieran gives 40. It's a long list. Laguna gives 30, Vaughn gives 20, Terra gives 30, in fact. So while 30% looks good, like right now, we're about to get a lot stronger kits, in my opinion. They also give 30 plus. And without just Gilgamesh's stuff being attached, so it's kind of it's a harder sell now, unfortunately. Let's keep it moving though. As teams, he's flexible. You let others use his effect. If you want to just let him sit there and aura bot it up and let someone else take advantage of the HP cap, cool. Otherwise, you kind of just do your thing with them. Don't rely on the RNG, but it can help. Always. Future fights, Rem's intersecting will. where he can turn manipulate for the orb with its RNG. Unfortunately, Kieran BT, he just hard hits the orb there because you need 5 stacks of a buff to hit the orb, and Seymour's intertwined will. Am I jumping between? I did jump between the two, intersecting, intertwined. I don't even know what it's called localized anymore. But yeah, you need a 2-turn delay on that, so he can RNG into that one. But otherwise, he'll just fit the bill as just a damage dealer. The orb on the fight is lethal. Again, thank God I missed it. It's +5 on a transformed HP attack, and it's +1 on the box. The boss acting. It maxes out at 5. So, and if you turn hog, you get punished somehow. They act. So just don't let the same character use the same amount of turns. They don't have to act, but you need to weave in special HP attacks, and it's probably better for you to just let them act so you can maintain the orb faster. These guys aren't very deadly, but you just need to remember to HP attack. Useful units that are recent: Queen got special HP, it's good. Machina, Locke, Alice with their enchanted redoublement. Cater's got a decent HP plus, and Garnet, on top of being broken, also has good HP attack. So as long as you remember to press the button and you bring like you're not dying, then you're good pretty much. This fight again isn't terribly challenging. So what are my plans? I am skipping this banner at the end of the day. I don't think Rosa stands out enough to fit in my roster, and while she's got the HP cap armor that could definitely pay off in the long term, I would never use her. I think all of her buffs have diminishing returns, and it wouldn't complement my roster in the slightest, so her LD is not for me. And Gilgamesh, again, I have HP cap up and a bunch of other units I have right now, and if I were to run him like that, I just don't think I would. I have no attachment to the character, and it's just not for me. So before you pull on Gilgamesh and Rosa, again, this is from a meta perspective. Gilgamesh fans like to let others know that they're gonna green Gilgamesh without anybody asking generally. But ultimately, I think this banner is not very good. I think Gilgamesh's biggest selling point is his loaded BT effect with a 30% HP cap, but given we know how C90 era plays out, and the diminishing returns on those, the better BT effects that also give that 30% HP cap down the line, I think most of the player base would be better off, from a meta perspective, just skipping this banner outright. That doesn't mean Gilgamesh can't be used. Please don't hit me with the usable, guys. Please don't hit me with that. Please, I swear to God. Yeah, I think when the content gets hard again, Gilgamesh is probably not going to be the person you turn to. Path of Least Resistances go way higher than Gilgamesh, and while he's kind of fun to mess around with, I ultimately don't think he's the best investment. Rosa, again, I don't think stands out quite well as well. So I think this banner should be skipped. Don't go for Gilgamesh's LD if you're not going to green him, because he's going to be benched. The utility on top of not having any like cap raises for the party is just going to put him in a really bad spot. And so unless you're like just dicking around with the kid, I wouldn't recommend you touch this banner at all. And really, if you need more tanking stuff, we have Layla around the corner. So like, I think if you're really waiting to get into the HP cap goodness and you don't have Garnet, just wait it out a month for Zach and Rams, honestly, because they'll look a lot better. Laguna will look a lot better, and Terra, all of them just in a month of power creep, and the fights this month aren't that challenging in the first place. So there's really no right reason I recommend to touch anyone on this banner. You could get better supports, you could just inch by with anything else. So again, let me know what you guys think. I think this banner is a skip, but let me know what you're thinking, what you're doing with this banner. I think Gilgamesh was actually the first BT cycle I skipped because I was so underwhelmed in JP. But it is what it is. I'll catch you guys later. Again, like the video, subscribe, comment, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.